doing war and all that stuff, and they have the government actually, they have politicians to do some kind of fib where they'll, it's like doing a magic trick. They have everyone watching that certain magic trick while they're doing something else behind the scenes. So sometimes I feel like it's a hoax, and it's like you have his wife, which is the first lady, and she just literally has no idea what she has to do as a first lady. And I don't know, like I don't really like the fact that she is even in the picture. Like shouldn't really be there. Like it should just be Trump and that's it. Like it's embarrassing to actually watch America as our neighbor, to watch two people that you would, or we now have to see as a big huge image. You know, we have to look up to them. So I find that quite embarrassing as an Australian. My name's Alicia. I'm from Australia. I've been brought up in Perth my whole life. I have lived overseas where my mum lives in America and all that stuff. But I've just come here. Elmi, who's the person that has pretty much gotten everyone together today, he's asked me to come along and be a part of this whole movement, which is people which are from different backgrounds, heritage, and age groups. So I feel very privileged that he asked me, because I like to really talk about uh, people's difficulties which they have in Australia, and it's something that really goes through my head, and I'm glad that I could at least speak my point and about how I feel and what it's like living in Australia.
No sign about him becoming the president, and everyone, I go around, everyone is like dash Trump, and I'm like, okay. But when I got here, they said he won the election, which is like, what happened? But I think what I could see is there's a power in social media right now. There's a power with what social media can do, and social media could change lives. And what happened in Trump election, I don't know about the Russian scandal or anything, but I think there's a lot to do with social media, and there's a lot to do with high power of manipulation somewhere, if it was manipulated. But I think Trump had his own market and focused on his market, and that's what he used to kind of win the election. Hey, hello, my name is Victor, a comedian, and it's amazing to be here today because I was able to share my feelings with young people and talk to them about friendship, about social identity, and it gives me an insight about difference in cultural background, differences in the way we think based on how we grew up. So it's an amazing opportunity to be part of this talk show, and it's made me feel like, oh, these are friends, like these are people we can talk and also affect people out there and raise ideas to people that are new, people that are coming in, and people that have been in Australia. And it's a major way of talking to people and changing what is happening in our environment. So it's amazing.
Just follow the character. Like, because he's a salesman. I mean, he sells his pitch and he sells his pitch, and if you look at what he's actually saying, some of the words are just absolutely atrocious. He says the most awful things, and he has the most bigoted and racist ideals. But I think one of the most fascinating facts about the fact that Donald won was just because he managed to sell his idea. Like,
He's a good salesman.
yeah,
Yeah, he's a businessman.
very very good businessman. I couldn't believe it when I actually heard. I was very very shocked. But then again, he is just a man, and I don't think he can run the country by himself. So I think that the party will actually have some say. So at the end of the day, it's like he says things. He's going to build a wall, right? He's going to deport all Muslims from. It's not going to happen. I don't think, because he's not a dictator, and his party will actually be running the country. I mean, he'll have some influence in that, but it's not his whole his whole political party will run the country. And I don't I don't think that building a wall will be their top priority when it comes to spending. Hi, my name is Gabriel O'Sullivan, and I was just here today to talk about Donald Trump and about a bunch of different issues such as social identity, relationships, and just some really, really interesting conversations that I feel is so important to talk about, because I, as a male in Western Australia, haven't had really the opportunity to talk to anybody about these things. And it is so nice to be able to talk to them and hear their opinion and just be able to bounce back and forth these ideas. Because we went over such fascinating topics about like depression and about racism and about all these very interesting things that needed to be talked about, which I just have never had the opportunity to. So I was very, very happy with what we talked about, and it was so nice to be able to talk about these things.
That's great.
People whose opinions really don't get a large say in the rest of the parties. And I think they're the ones that were kind of like, yeah, you know, there's a guy that thinks like me, that has the same job as me, and, you know, he kind of came up out of nothing, even though he's a lot richer than any of them will ever be. But, you know, they kind of had that relatability, and I think that's why he gets away with saying a lot of the things that he's saying, because it's like, politicians aren't straight up, but, you know, he's giving it to us straight, and that's kind of what a lot of people related with, and probably why they ended up voting for him. So, yeah, my name's Idasan. I came to kind of just experience this forum of speaking to different range of people about topics that, that were all concerns us all. I think the number one thing that really related to me, or that I took from this, was the part about relationships and this idea of men having to be confident or kind of portray themselves in a manner that doesn't really represent who they are. And I really considered that, and them having to juggle what men should be like and who they actually are like. So yeah, it was a good experience to kind of talk to people about this.
Social and political capital by demonizing and villainizing like vulnerable groups. And now we have a man who's openly racist, sexist, homophobic, a known predator. Like, he openly admitted on tape to sexual assault, yet none of these things disqualify him to become president of the United States. And you have to wonder, what were the values that the people who voted for him, like, what values did they keep in mind while they were voting for him? Because I honestly just think it was, white flight. So usually I think the answer to all of this is just Trump perpetuates white supremacy. And America was a country that's built on dual genocides. It was built on the genocide of Native Americans and First Nations people, and the genocide of the African people that they brought over. And any country that's built on... Hey there, my name is Rafif Ismail, and I had a fantastic time coming here. It was a really great opportunity to meet different people, have discussions in a really intimate setting, and listen to different points of views. And I feel like that's something that's really, really needed in this day and age. Like, it's beautiful that Roots TV has provided this sort of space where you come in with a group of people you've never met before and leave making a lot of friends. So I had a fantastic time. I really enjoyed discussing the topics of the world, talking about Trump, talking about relationships, talking about like our Australian identity. Is something that I feel, which is something I think about a lot. So I feel really passionate about discussing it. As the video will tell, I had a lot to say, and I still have a lot to say, and I hope that I'll be given the opportunity again.
We just like this idea of a mighty leader who's just all powerful, does everything right. You know, it's what's startling to me is how similar this is to, like, for example, the rise of Hitler. Almost like in terms of psychological parallels. Like in psychology, we have this thing called slippery slopes and false dichotomies. And my lecturer gave a really good example once. He said, if I say, for example, that this is the problem, and therefore I have the solution, then automatically people place their trust in me, and I can get away with a lot of issues. And I think Hitler did a little bit of the same with, well, the Jews are the problem. Let's rise to power that way. Now Donald's done exactly the same thing, just with the Mexicans, or even Muslims. Like it's shocking to me that he can do that and get away with it. And then that obviously, all these ideas about equality and multiculturalism just aren't even mentioned, or it's almost pushed to the side because of what he says seems to be accepted. And I can't stand what he says sometimes in terms of the racism and the bigoted way with which he speaks.
Another thing is, I think, and could be, you can see like recently when he stopped 5 countries or banned 5 countries, and that's it. As you said, you think it's not a dictatorship, but if Obama did something like that, it's huge.
Yeah.
If Obama said a lot of things Trump said, he would never be a president. So you see, he's privileged because of his skin, or because of his power, or because of his money. So there's some things money can do, and wealth. So I don't think it might not be there for too long, but there will be a lot of damage, and there might be a lot of good. But we can't say. But there's a lot of consequences that come with changes in leadership and the style it's using. Honestly, I think Trump is kind of he has a very high privilege to become a dictator.
Even like what you were saying a couple of seconds ago, right? Like, if Obama had said half the things that Donald Trump had said, he would have been given hell. I mean, Obama was criticized for swatting a fly. Like, just if you look at it, even the racism of it, and the fact that Donald Trump can get away with saying so much because he's a rich white man, but the moment that Donald says, something, is like excusable. Just
African countries or Middle Eastern countries, those that the West has labeled as other, those will be, like, if America, like, if half of the things that America's doing were done somewhere in the Middle East, it would be an excuse for war.
Yeah.
And it has been used as an excuse for war. Wars have been started for less. But, again, like you said, it's a white man with power and privilege, and that privilege means that he will be protected because...
We don't talk to each other, we're not interested in each other's lives, we've moved on completely. And I think it was also because, like, I didn't try and fit in high school. And I see a lot of friends who are still together from high school. They were part of the cool group. Like, they had to actually fit in, and they did everything right, and they made the right friends and wore the right clothes and said the right things and tried.
You were the most popular.
I was too popular. So popular that I had no friends. Too cool for
Just
school.
on that pedestal.
Yeah, just above it. Oh, it was ridiculous. No, I never liked school.
Yeah, sometimes you just go to school and step out. I was a very shy person. Like, I don't talk to people, and I had problem with stammering, and so there was a part of me that's like, nah, don't talk to me. That's why when I'm in a group of people, they'll be like, does this guy talk? I'm like, yeah, I do, but I'm not yet talking now. So it gets like sometimes that you don't get me talking in a group of people. And my friends are like looking at me like, Victor, Piccolo, comedian. I'm like, okay. When I'm off stage, I'm like, on stage, hello. So yeah, and now I went to Scotland, and it's different again. I had to build friendship. I had to start building friendship with people. So when there was a community of African people there, about 11 of them, it took me about how many days to see one person from Africa, And I'm like, really? And the first girl that saw me, she's from France, but because we're both black, and she's like, hey, oh my God. I'm like, she's not even good in English. I'm like, I'm like, okay, yeah, you too. Yeah, so, yeah. And then we built friendship, started building more network of friendship, and we started building community of friends. So I was like, no, we need to expand to other people, like we need to, because in Sterling, and we're like penetrating, so we organized barbecue, because I'm like, people come out to have a time. I'm like, why don't you just have a barbecue and bring people together and food with music, Then people started, it built a lot of friendship there. And came in here also, I tried as much as possible to get into it, get into it. And also, one of the ways you can also establish a relationship is volunteering is very good. Because we also do like aged care drumming and dancing. So we go to like aged care to drum and dance for them. And this build like friendship with people. Because people will be like, you're a stranger. I don't know you. I'm like, you can't know me. I just came from Africa. How can you know me? I say, hello, how you doing? Like, you don't, over here, you can't talk to people, to someone on the road. You can't. Never. Like, hey, hello.
I mean, I mean, it starts like we can go, mate. Hey,
Yeah,
like we can say like, hey, how you going, mate? You have a good day?
Yeah.
See ya. Like
And then
it's
you
and then it's passing ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys live close to each other.
like next door neighbours, and you never talk, you never share barbecues.
No,
you
never.
It's very antisocial.
Yeah, it's very antisocial.
Takes the trash out. They're like, yeah.
But you know yourself. You watch him like, that's my neighbor. yeah, on the road. That's my neighbor. Yeah.
I think it's also just to that whole thing where a lot of like men are expected. Like women are supposed to be really friendly and talk to each other and talkative, and you see like girls with lots of their girlfriends and like large groups of women who are like, oh hey, and they're all friendly with each other.
But that's even fake.
It is fake, but it's also culture. Women are supposed to be friendly to each other. Guys are not. Guys are supposed to be masculine and manly and are supposed to actually put each other down all the time. And it's exactly. It's very like distant, and it's very hard for males to develop good friendships. Therefore, because it's all superficial, you know. It's all only
Connection is kind of why a lot of them think that you can't just be friends, because then like from a girl's perspective it's kind of just like, oh no, you know, if he's talking to me he wants me kind of thing, but in the way it's kind of like he has nobody else to talk to. You're at that friendship kind of level with him, but then that's kind of where yes, and that's like the friendship thing, but I think that's probably why a lot of people kind of confuse whether or not you can have just platonic friendships, where it's like, if you guys can both get along on like a real level, I don't think it really should matter what your gender is. It doesn't mean just because you guys are both like, you know, a male and a female and that's the way your sexual orientation goes that you guys have to be in a relationship sort of thing. It's like, no, you can just get along with somebody and actually just be friends with them.
friend zone.
I don't know if that even exists though.
I hate it.
It's just a way for like men to put all of the expectations on women. Women
for not
exactly. Women don't owe them anything.
Women do not owe guys anything, but they should actually try and get rejected a couple of times to understand what that process is like.
What makes you assume that women haven't been rejected?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they don't go up and ask a guy out, they don't go up and ask for his number, and they don't go up
Women
and
haven't
initiate
been meeting.
I
conversation.
know. Maybe not as directly as
It needs, but that is though. It needs to
because
be.
everything else just goes over the head. I guess that's still how they expect it. But the whole idea of like a friend zone is kind of just like, if you're in a relationship with somebody, you guys need to be friends anyway. So that's kind of why it's sort of easier. And like guys that think they're in the friend zone, you already know all of that. So if he like does a dicky move or whatnot, you kind of like accept it because it's like, yeah, you know, I still know that he's a good guy deep down inside, sort of thing. So
See, I just cut off guys. I don't have forgiveness anymore.
Yes.
I'm 2 years old. I'm far too old. And if he expects something that I've never offered in the first place, then he's gone, because unless I explicitly say I want a relationship with this person, then they should have absolutely no expectation. Why should I? Like, why do they expect women to be available to the first guy who smiles at them?
No, actually,
say yes.
Yeah.
Why is he more likely to be able to get intimacy
He's got that
with
appeal to him. I think a lot of like attraction is how you
Like-
carry yourself,
He knows
and
that
that's
he
why.
is.
Yeah.
he knows that he is. Okay, so the guys who get friend zoned are the guys who actually don't
Gentlemen.
are gentlemen and genuinely have the girl's best
Good
interest at
ones.
heart. And then
But then that's still assuming that a friend zone exists.
It's not like
Like,
when you admit your flaws, like you hold it in your character, you hold it when you stand.
Yeah.
A girl can feel that.
So what's the best way to not be in the friend zone? 'Cause
be a
Just
dickhead. Be a complete dickhead. Be an
exactly
asshole.
like what he said, but you don't have to say those things. You have to hold it in the way how you.
I think a lot of betrayal, and that's why I think a lot of women won't trust men, because there's always that, you know, looking for that hidden agenda, which always seems to happen. And I can't tell you how many people have just deleted because suddenly at 2 a.m. they're like, hey, how you doing? And I'm just like, nope, too late. Like just like that, because like I said, I've just become far too old for that kind of, I don't know, nonsense. I'm just At 22, I want to develop myself, and I want to develop friendships that will last a lifetime. I want to develop relationships that will last for longer, whether they be platonic or romantic. And personally, at the moment, I would much rather focus on my friendships, focus on building healthy emotional connections with everyone, and I don't know, grow as a person and have the people around me grow and develop themselves as well, rather than something that's fake or meaningless, or something like a relationship I said yes to just because I felt like pressured by the person or by society or by expectation. The last 13 years I've basically grown up here. I consider myself Sudanese, but I also consider myself Australian. And sometimes those two identities are like at war with each other, because it's not just being Sudanese or Australian, it's trying to be like trying to find the perfect balance of both. And I don't know if you both feel this, but sometimes you feel like you're not Australian enough, you're not Sudanese enough.
I agree with that.
Like, you know, even the language, like I don't speak Arabic as well as I would like, and half of my conversations in Arabic will go into English, and I code switch. Code switching, I say, is my first language. The just moving between Arabic and English. And I feel like to be a third culture child is to constantly reinvent yourself every day with every new experience. You have to reconcile that with all aspects of your identity. And to add that to being like a woman and a Muslim woman, it's just, yeah, it's an adventure is what I'd say. I think I'll have more to say about it, but I'd love to hear from all of you.
You're not Somali enough to be Somali, because if right now if I was to go back to Somalia, I wouldn't be able, like, they would consider me an outsider, and then it's like here I would be considered an outsider. So that level of where do you kind of belong, because you're not speaking the language the same way, or what you consider normal is different now between someone that was back home or whatnot. And then to balance into that, like my Muslim identity, it's kind of just like, where is the level, you know, where it's like, where do you exactly belong? And the thing about culture is, it's like, I don't consider myself Australian, because I'm not an Australian citizen. I came here in like 2002, but I grew up in New Zealand, so it's kind of just like, am I Kiwi, am I like Australian, am I from Somalia? Or it's like balancing it all out and kind of figuring out who you are. As a child is like really hard, and I feel like that's where a lot of youth kind of go wrong, where it's kind of like that sense of belonging. There's not one circle that they kind of belong to in that sort of sense, so they try to reinvent where they belong, and it's hard.
And we colonized the Aboriginal lands and people, and then we just set ourselves up, and then just started to get immigrants. The Australian identity, well, according to John Howard, roughly in 2007, when he used to be the Prime Minister of Australia, is based on individual choice. So it's like, it's based on self-reliant individualism and my ability to do what I want, regardless of what some authority figure says. And I think there's a lot of problems with that way of thinking if it comes to different cultural clashes, because Australia, if that's the way we think of it, is an individualistic society. Now, when you get different cultures who come to Australia who have more like collectivist societies, where the whole notion of I am because of you and we are a community kind of exists, then it's just, you can't exist as an Australian, because the culture doesn't allow you to think like your traditional cultural roots. And then you can't exist in your traditional cultural roots because you've had to assimilate somewhat into the Australian identity. So it's just, the Australian identity quite currently is not doing anybody a favour, because it discriminates and it stops people from different cultures assimilating, or forces them to assimilate. It stops them from actually joining a more multicultural Australia. I feel like it doesn't encourage difference as much as I would like. And I mean, like, I can definitely relate to being an outsider, and like as an Australian who was born in Australia and has Australian parents, I've very much felt alone when I grew up. I was bullied and harassed, and I had a lot of different identity issues because I didn't feel at home. And like, it's probably a lot easier for me because I'm an Australian-born Australian, and I had it rough trying to fit in. So I can only imagine what it's like with Australians who are born from different cultures, or second or third generations from a different culture which thinks like in a completely different way. So it's just harder for everybody who isn't an Australian-born Australian, I think.